Howdy Beans, and welcome back to another exciting episode of the Howdy Beans podcast. I'm your host, Luke the Human. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're all good, as per usual. Before we get into today's topic and the continuation of a beloved series of mine, I want to do with housekeeping because I like to keep my house nice and clean. So make sure that you follow me on Twitter at howdybeans_pod. If you listen to this on YouTube, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And finally, if you listen to this on Spotify on your mobile phone, don't forget to leave a 5-star rating. So today we're going to be looking at Ferdinand from 2017. This is a continuation of my Blue Sky Studios adventures. For anybody who is new, anybody who is jumping into this episode for the first time, welcome. Thank you for joining me. For anybody who has been listening to the podcast, listening to the series up until now, thank you. Welcome back. But if you're new, I'm just going to give you a sort of quick example and explanation of what this series is and what it means. Since I think my second year in podcasting, I've been looking at Blue Sky Studios. Blue Sky Studios are known for the Ice Age franchise. They did Robots, they did Rio, they did Horton Hears a Who, they did the absolutely wonderful just incredibly brilliant Peanuts movie, which again I did a review of that. Please do check it out. It actually recently hit 1,000 views on YouTube. So if you haven't listened to the episode, please do check it out. It's the absolute cracker. But they are a beloved studio, especially from my childhood. And even though I still say to this day that they should have stopped with Ice Age 1, they kept doing the Ice Age movies, and some of them are good, some of them are not so good, but they are a very sort of childhood sort of studio for me. And they got closed down by Disney, and they haven't made a new movie. So I wanted to go look back and to look at their portfolio, look at the films that they've done, see how they've evolved, see how they've changed. By all means, please do go back and check my prior episodes. Like I said, the Peanuts episode was the last one I did before the end of last year. But I've also looked at all the Ice Age movies. I've looked at all the Rio films. I've looked at Robots, Horton Hears a Who. I've done them all. So if you want to go back and check them all, please do, because they were absolute joy. Even the bad ones were fun to talk about. So today we're going to be carrying on that trend with the second to last movie, because you've got this one, Ferdinand, and then Spies in Disguise, and that was it. Kaput. Done. They didn't make any more after that. So we're really close to the finish line. As for the movie synopsis of this film, Ferdinand is a young bull who escapes from a training camp in rural Spain after his father never returns from a showdown with a matador. Adopted by a girl who lives on a farm, Ferdinand's peaceful existence comes crashing down when the authorities return him to his former captors. With help from a wisecracking goat and 3 hedgehogs, the giant but gentle bovine must find a way to break free before he squares off against El Primo, the famous bullfighter who never loses. That is the synopsis of the movie. As for sort of my memories of this one, I don't have any. I feel like this is going to be a very short introduction because I don't really have many memories of it. I think I've partly watched it once. I think the problem is with Blue Sky, and not specifically Blue Sky, but the trend that they were on. And I've mentioned this a couple of times in prior reviews, but the trend they were on, I made this point when I was talking about Ice Age, was that you should never grow up with your hero. And the point I made there was basically, I grew up with Ice Age. I shouldn't have. It should have ended at a certain point, but they kept making movies because they kept going. And with the last Ice Age movie, going into research and looking into production, I basically realised and revealed that they had no idea for the final film. It was just the fact that they had to go back to the first movie to look at certain things and to take, oh, that was interesting, we'll do this, we'll do that, we'll get a spaceship here, and we'll get this from here, and then we'll make a movie out of it. They were really clutching at straws, really, but they did it because those movies made like billions. They made like a lot of money. The Ice Age films did, and it kind of soured me. So by the time 2017 was coming along, I think by this stage I was in my last year of college, just going into uni. So I was aging out of their movies, and they weren't really. And I love animated movies, and I did back then as much as I do now. But they were aging out for me. They weren't as smart and as clever as they was when I was younger, or at least I didn't remember them being it at the time. And I think when this movie came out, I wasn't as big as a fan of John Cena as I am now. Again, thanks to the likes of Peacemaker and other films that he's done. So when I saw it, I was just like, yeah, a bull. No, I'm not interested. And again, I'd never actually read the book that this is based off either, so I didn't have no connection there. So it wasn't like a Peanut sort of thing where like it's a recognizable IP. It just felt like, oh, a new story by Blue Sky, but about a bull who doesn't want to really be a bull. And I don't know, it just didn't appeal to me. So I don't really have any memories. Like I said, I don't think I've watched it in full. I think I've seen parts of it here and there, and that's about it. I don't really know anything about it. So yeah, that's it for the memory section. As for top cast, so we also got John Cena as Ferdinand, Kate McKinnon as Lupe, Bobby Cannavale as Valentine's father, Jack Gore as young Valentine, Jet Jerdinson Smear, I can't pronounce your name, I'm sorry, buddy, as young Guapo, Niall Diaz as young Bones. We also have, I think Gabriel Inglés is in this as well, but I can't really see him on the sheet. But Gabriel Inglés is in this. Gerard Carmichael is Paco. So that is your cast, really. Oh, yeah, he is. I'm just having to look at the photos. Oh, he is in this movie. He plays a hedgehog. Don't know why he's not on the casting for, but yeah, he's in there. Anyway, moving swiftly on. So the production, I generally couldn't find any. This is one of them films that you'd think that there'd be a lot out there about them, but I couldn't find anything really. Like what I could find was a simple sort of basic synopsis, really, because that's what it feels like. Basically, it goes like this. In 2011, it was reported that 20th Century Fox Animation had acquired the rights to the children's book, The Story of Ferdinand, by Munro Leaf to adapt it into a computer animated feature film with Carlos Sahana attached to direct it. Yeah, they did a lot of this. They did a lot of taking stories from books and redoing them into animated things, which again, it's fine because they did it with Epic. Epic was, I think Epic was originally called The Leafman, and again, I had a big sort of rant when I was talking about that movie. I was saying basically they should have left it as The Leafman because The Leafman sounds more interesting than Epic, because Epic sets it up for being epic. But if it's not as epic as the name suggests, it lets people down. It hypes people up and lets people down. Not to say it's not a good film. It is a pretty good film, to be honest. But it's still one of those of like, you shouldn't name something epic unless it is epic or greater than epic. Anyway, I'm not getting back onto that soapbox. But the point I'm trying to make is that Blue Sky did this a lot. They took books like Horton Is a Who with Epic with Leafman, obviously with Ferdinand here, and even you could even go as far as say the Peanuts, because obviously they were like newspaper comics at one stage as well, and transferred them into animated feature films. So it'd become a standard, really. And then in May 2013, Fox titled the film simply Ferdinand, which would be produced by Blue Sky Studios. John Powell, a frequent collaborator with the director, announced that he would be composing the film's score. And that's it. That's as best as I could find for this movie. I'm excited. I am, to be honest. Like I said, it's always, even though it's a movie I don't have much memory for, it's a movie I don't really remember, it could be a film that, again, just passed me by, as I said, because I was in my last year of college. I had other things to focus on. I am now a fan of John Cena. I love the movies that he's been in, and he's a pretty good actor. And I'll even go as far to say, and I know people will probably disagree with me here, I actually really much enjoy John Cena in projects more than I do The Rock. Whenever it comes on TV, well, oh, John Cena's in a new movie, I'm I'm more excited to go watch that than go see a Rock in a film anymore. I just think he's just a better actor, and he just seems, I don't know, he just has a better quality. Okay, I'm not here to rant about that, but I'm just, I might go into this and think, what, John Cena did a really good job, and that might bring me, and that might make me enjoy it. And again, it might be a good film. I don't know, but I am excited to go into it. As I do with everything, I'm going to go in with my glass empty, and I'm going to experience it and enjoy it for what it is, not for what I want it to be or anything like that. And yeah, I have my fingers crossed. So yeah, I'm going to go off now and watch this movie. When I return, I'll give you all my thoughts and feelings on the film Ferdinand from 2017. All right, see you in a minute. And welcome back, everybody. I have just finished watching Ferdinand. Honestly, going straight into sort of first impressions, it is a very charming and heartfelt movie, and I am surprised. I'm not surprised that I like it. I'm not surprised that I enjoyed it. I'm surprised it's better than I thought. And what I mean by that is the fact of I know that I look at a lot of movies that are not very widely known, are not very widely talked about. That's kind of my motto, really, when it comes to the podcast. Is I like to look at things that um, are very sort of the underdog. There's lack of better words, but with this film, I had a feeling that some people might have remembered it or might have known it because again, it is still relatively new. Again, it is Blue Sky, and again, they're very well known sort of studio. So I was just thinking, well, somebody has to know about it. But everybody that I talked to, and I put it onto X, that I was watching this movie, and I actually got a reply back from Robin, who is one of the hosts of an awful lot of running podcast. He basically went, never seen it, but I only remember it because it was advertised on the side of the box that my Blu-ray player came in, which goes to say a lot, I guess. But yeah, apart from that, nobody really had said that they recognised it, that I remembered it. So that kind of got me a bit sort of against the wall of like, oh, okay, if nobody remembers it, is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? And that's what shocked me really, was to go into it and find it's actually better than I thought. Like I said, it's a story about a bull that wants to smell flowers, that doesn't basically is a bull but doesn't want to be a bull. They don't want to fight, they don't want to battle, they don't want to prove that they're the strongest or they're the best, anything like that. All Ferdinand really wants to do is to live a peaceful life, is to smell flowers, to live peacefully, to sit under a tree and watch the sunset. It's a very peaceful sort of idea and concept. But because he's a bull, sorry, not Bill, because he's a bull, that's not the life that humans have predicted for him. Especially growing up in Spain as well, he has to be a fighting bull. He has to be a bull that has to prove that they're worth their strengths, because if they're not strong, and basically it's a lose-lose situation, really. If they don't prove that they're the strongest, they go off to the slaughterhouse. But if they do prove they're strongest, they go off to the arena to be slaughtered for entertainment. So either way, he is already at a loss in life. And again, in this story, it is sort of told, like all young bulls and all bulls really are told at a very young age that this is your destiny, and that you have to be the strongest, you have to be the fastest, you have to have sort of the most power, because you've got to defeat the matador, and that everybody that defeats the matador gets their freedom, and they get to live their life as being the strongest, and that's the idea. But the thing is, as Ferdinand finds out later on in the story, that no bull wins. Every bull that goes against the matador believes that they are going to beat the matador, that they are going to be the winner. But what Ferdinand quickly realizes, and what all the other bulls in the story realize, that none of them made it back. He sees a whole shrine in the house of this bullfighter, and each one of them is a picture of the bull and the bull's horns, and there's loads of them. And it's from there that he realizes of like, this is the lie, basically. Obviously, that's a lot later on in the story, but it kind of shows Ferdinand's sort of character. I'm jumped ahead a bit. I've jumped ahead a lot, to be honest. But it is a very sort of wonderful story. It reminds me of the old days of Blue Sky, when they'd give you these characters and they'd give you this sort of narrative where, like with Ice Age, it is the narrative of these animals find a human baby and they've got to take that baby to where the humans are, and they go on a journey, and within that journey you learn a lot more about them. And again, within that, in Ice Age they learn about family, about friendship, about the idea of revenge, but also of redemption, but also of forgiveness. Again, robots. I always bring robots up because it is one of my favorite movies of theirs. But this idea that you can shine no matter what you're made of, you can be better. You can be better. You don't have to upgrade yourself. You don't have to change yourself to be better. You just are, because you are unique. And a lot of these, and even like Horton Hears a Who, which again I know a lot of it is basically from Dr. Zeus himself, but still how they're able to convey this idea that a person's a person, no matter how small, and really convey that onto screen, and it being such a wonderful movie. But this reminds me of the old days of Blue Sky. That's how they were. That's how a lot of their movies were. And eventually, as time went on, and I think what I've noticed, and hopefully other people have noticed in my reviews as I've gone by and watched all their films back to back, is that they lost that at a certain point. They went really commercialized. They went because it basically DreamWorks did the same. DreamWorks was set up to go against Disney, to go against Pixar, to be like, oh, we can still do this. We don't need the backing of the mouse, really. And they did. Like the first few films that came out for DreamWorks were incredible. They were biblical epics, yes, but they had the heart, they had the soul, they had the music, they had the visuals. They were on a good footing. And again, I love Shrek, but then when Shrek came out, Shrek just really uprooted that whole concept completely, made tons of money, and they just went on that narrative of let's just keep doing Shrek, but let's just keep doing movies like that. And then obviously it's only till recently with the newest, I would say in my opinion anyway, with the newest Puss in Boots movie, Last Wish, which again, if you haven't seen it, it's better than you think. Honestly, it's incredible. The way that they portray death, it's outstanding. It's a beautiful film. Go watch it. One day I might talk about it, but it's wonderful. But it's only till now with that film that they are starting to go back to what their original sort of motto was. Their original credence was to be better, to do something different, which is a good thing. I'm glad they are, and hopefully they keep going with it with DreamWorks. And it feels like that's kind of what Blue Sky was doing here. Was like, even though the film itself, it doesn't look like Blue Sky's film. It doesn't have their sort of pizzazz. It doesn't have their flavor to it. Because I'll be honest, it does feel like a straight to DVD sort of film. It looks like a film that was made by sort of a first time sort of animation studio, which again isn't a really heritably bad thing, but sometimes you could just tell. Like if you ever used to watch like Aladdin, you knew that was made by Disney. It was beautiful. It was incredible. And then you'd watch like The Return of Jafar, which was like the straight to video sort of sequel. And again, it's still Aladdin, but you can tell that it's rough around the edges. Not say this movie's rough around the edges, but it just doesn't have that same feeling. Like Charlie Brown came out before this, biblical, incredible, amazing film, blew me away, bloody brilliant. Feels like Blue Sky, but also still feels like the source material. Whereas this is in the vein of Rio, but I even said the same thing with Rio. Rio doesn't inherently feel like Blue Sky. Epic feels more like Blue Sky, but even then, even Epic didn't feel like Blue Sky at times as well. I don't know. Maybe it was one of the things they've got to a point where, like, it was an sort of identity crisis. Maybe they just didn't know where they wanted to go, what they wanted to do. But I feel what the point is I'm trying to make, and again, I've got a roundabout way of doing it. But the point is I'm trying to make is that with this film, even though it doesn't feel like a Blue Sky Studios film, even though it doesn't inherently look like one, it has that feeling to it. It has those moments of those really impactful moments and really emotional moments that I'm sitting there thinking, this is the Blue Sky that I remember. You know, what happened to them? Where did they go? Why did they disappear for so long? What was the change? What made them, with this film, decide to go the emotional route and to go with those deeper sort of messages that are really good for children to see at a young age and to sort of witness and understand? I don't know. I don't know, but I'm glad they managed to do it here. Like I said, the only real sort of negative that I have, and again, it's not really negative, is the fact that there's too many characters. What I mean by that is the fact of you have your central characters that are like that connected to Ferdinand, that connect to the story, connect to the emotional bits. You've got the other balls. That's fine. They all should be there. But you have these other characters, like the horses, and them just basically being bullies and being horrible and basically calling them, oh, stinky bull, stinky bull. Like, I can't do it. They all just like German accents. But they all call them stinky bull in a very horrible way. I mean, but again, it's played for comedy, it's played for hilarity. You've got the porcupines as well. I think they're porcupines, but like little porcupines as well. Again, they're there for a comedy sort of sake. And then you've got Kate McKinnon, who does the voice of the goat, and she's a calming goat. And for anybody that doesn't know, I've never really known balls to have calming goats. Calming goats are mostly used for horses. So for anybody who is unaware, for some unknown reason, known only to horses, that horses feel more comfortable when there's a goat around. If there's a goat on the farm, horses just feel comfortable. I don't know why. I don't know the logic, but for some unknown reason, that's true. If you ever get a horse that's ever scared, frightened, a bit hysterical, anything like that, if you put if the horse sees the goat, or if you put a goat in the paddock with the horse, it just calms the horse down. I don't know why. It just does. I've never really known it for bulls, but again, it just doesn't really bother me, to be honest. Like, it would make sense. Like, oh, bulls, they're very known for being sort of, again, getting startled and being very sort of angry and that sort of thing. So again, it would make sense that you'd have some sort of calming implement, i.e. a calming goat, to calm them down. Problem is, she's not very good at her job, and she's very much just played for comedy. Again, you don't hire an actress like Kate McKinnon in that role, like famous for SNL and stuff like that, and not play her for comedy, which is fine. But I feel like she really subtracts from the story, and like I said, the horses do as well. And like, I'm so focused on the pocket of the emotional side of Ferdinand and the characters and the story, that I want to spend more time in that. I do. I don't want to go off to these comedy moments. And I get it, it's a kids movie. Like, you can't have, because it's a modern kids movie, you can't have these really heartfelt stories and these sort of dark overtones at times as well. You can't have that constantly. It has to have sort of dark overtones, sort of emotional beats, but then hilarity and comedy to kind of make them laugh, sort of thing. And again, that's just how modern animated movies are, which is fine. But I just know that if I watched this back in the day, like back in the 90s, early 2000s, maybe even if it was like in the 80s and I watched it on TV on a repeat, those darker tones and those emotional moments would just keep going. And sometimes they would traumatize you. But then other times, like, they would teach you a lesson. Didn't know what the lesson was, but there was usually a lesson there to be learned, you know. But that's the really only negative I have, is just the fact that there's too much going on with the comedy. Like, you've got me with the emotional beat, keep me on that track. But I still managed to enjoy it. I think one of the reasons why I wasn't interested in this movie when it first came out in 2017, not just because, again, I was finishing college, going into uni. I'm a big lover of animals. I don't like animal cruelty, and I'm more than likely. I'm now sort of watching the film, and I went back and sort of tracing in my mind to try to remember when this film came out and where I was and what I was doing. I remember seeing the trailer for it and seeing the idea and concept behind bullfights and matadors and stuff like that. And then I think there was a scene in the trailer where, look, there's a big arena and Ferdinand, you've got the matador together. And I feel like, to me, that's something I wasn't interested in, because I don't like cruelty to animals. And I think bullfighting, it still exists, it's still around, that it's wrong and that it shouldn't be done. And, you know, we're in the future now. We should treat like animals with respect and the dignity they deserve. And I think that's probably the reason why I didn't gel with it. You know, I was too old for it. I'd moved on, but at the same stage, I saw the things with the animal cruelty. And even though the movie doesn't really go into that a lot, that is still a big focal point. The idea of these bulls are being bred to fight, and when they realize that moment of, like, that you don't win, there's no winners. Like, if you don't fight, you get turned into steak. If you do fight, you get killed, and then you get probably turned into steak after that as well. But you get killed for sort of for spectre, really, for entertainment. And when other bulls realize that, then it's that sort of come to sort of Jesus moment of, like, oh my God, I don't want this life for me. And that's when, like, they all make a big break and they escape and they get free. And I guess it's just one of those where it was like, I don't know. I didn't want to see that. And I'd recently watched Watership Down, and that book is incredible. And one of the things that I love about that book is that it basically, there's a, I'm gonna butcher the line, but it basically goes into detail saying, like, there's only two reasons why animals will attack each other. It is either out of desperation and hunger, or it is to protect their young or their territory. apart from that, animals tend to stay clear from other animals. Animals don't seem to hurt each other unless they really have to. And even then, when an animal kills another animal, it is usually for food. Nothing goes to waste. Everything, it's for a reason. It's for a purpose. And the book goes into detail of like it's only humans that are barbaric. It's only humans that will fight each other and will kill each other for no reason whatsoever. And again, that's Watership Down. I don't really want to get into that story, but I had those sort of thoughts going in my mind as I was watching this. Of like, as the bulls were realizing that they were bred as a lie and they're living a lie, and everything that they've been told is a lie, and their parents had died for nothing. My brain was going straight to the idea of like, yeah, it's true. It's humans. It's humans that have put bulls in this situation. Bulls are animals. They shouldn't be used to fight for entertainment. Bulls aren't entertainment. Animals aren't used for entertainment. They're not. We're meant to be the higher species, the higher intelligence. But why do we act more like animals than they do? Again, it was many questions like that were coming to mind. And again, I don't want to go too deep into it because, again, it's a kid's movie. I don't want to go too dark and too deep. But again, this is where the film was sort of pushing my brain, and maybe it's because I had read Watership Down recently that I was still having those themes and ideas in my brain going into sort of this film. But it is, like I said, it comes back to it, and sort of my overall thoughts of like I was just surprised that it was better than I thought. Like, I'm not saying it's the best ever film that they've made. I'm not saying it's going to blow you away. I'm not saying it's epic or it's biblical or anything like that. It is good. It is a very good, solid film. And I think if you've got kids or, if you're just an animation lover, it is one to watch. I was just surprised that it was better than I thought. Going into it, it's more heartfelt and more emotional than anything that I could think of. Because after I watched this, because I watched it on Disney Plus, because that's where all the Blue Sky movies are now. There's also a 1938 version of this film that Disney did. It was only 8 minutes long, but it's kind of the quick version of the story, really. Because I just wanted to watch it to kind of see the contrast, and both are brilliant. Both are really sort of well done. Obviously, Disney, it's like the 1930s version of Disney, so like it's very hand drawn and that sort of thing. But if you wanted to get the idea of the story of Ferdinand without having to watch this long film, you could watch that one. Like, it's only 8 minutes long. But I just want to see the contrast, but the same story told differently, but it does follow the narrative sort of the same, just one's quicker than the other, really. And one other thing I wanted to sort of note, why did nobody tell me that David Tennant was in this movie? David Tennant is in it. He plays a Highland bull, and he goes proper Scottish. Again, I do apologise for that terrible, atrocious accent, but he does. He goes full on David Tennant, and it's wonderful. It is. I didn't know who was going to be in this movie, so when he shows up, I was like, "Oh, look, it's Ducky. There he is. It's old Who himself. There he is, Mr. David Tennant, and he's Scottish. He's proper Scottish. It's wonderful." Again, do apologise, but I was doing it for the whole way for the film. Like, I was like, "Oh, there he is." I was doing the accent because he plays a Highland bull and he can't see, so he's trying his best, but at the same stage, like he's just running into things, crashing into things, hurting himself. And Ferdinand basically gives him a cow lick, gets all of them off. Because again, if you've never seen a Highland bull, Highland cow, they're very hairy. And again, because where they are, it's cold, it's wet, so again, of course they are. But he gives him a cow lick, so he parts the hair in front of the guy's eyes, and he can see. And like Dave Tennant is like, I can see. Hey, yeah, I'm not going to do it because I'm going to upset some Irish people. I'm not Irish, Scottish people. Either way, I'm going to upset somebody with it, and I don't know where the accent's going to go, so I'm not going to do it. But he's like, I can see, man. And it's just wonderful. It really is, because again, David Tennant is wonderful in whatever he's in, but like when you're not suspecting David Tennant to appear, it's wonderful. It really is. And again, it goes with the story as well, because like Ferdinand gets back to the sort of, I don't know, ranch that he broke free from when he was younger, and he finds his way back there, and he meets all these different bulls. Some of the bulls that were there from his childhood, some of them are new, being sort of David Tennant's sort of Highland cow, and he tries to tie them into sort of his way of thinking, because again, they're very brought up thinking this is the way the bull's going to be. A bull's going to fight. Bull's going to be this, blah, blah, blah. And slowly but surely, by getting to know them and them getting to know him and helping them out, they slowly start to see ways that he does, and that allows him to eventually reveal to them the truth that he learns, and then they all sort of escape or try to escape anyway. And again, I don't want to talk too much about the story because again, it's a story that I want you to go out and watch yourself. Mainly for the heartfelt moments. And I think that goes to show how much I enjoyed it as well. Because again, if I didn't enjoy the film, I'd just talk about the whole sort of plot. Because again, like I'd say, don't bother. But with this one, I want people to check it out. I want people to sort of give it a go on their own. So yeah, overall thoughts, absolutely wonderful. A lot better than I thought. And yeah, we've got Spies in Disguise next. Don't know if I'm going to like it or not because I'm not really a fan of Will Smith. I know Tom Holland is in it, but again, I like Tom Holland as Spider-Man, but anything else apart from Spider-Man that I've seen him in, I haven't really that I've never really actually enjoyed or been that big of a fan of. So again, it'll be interesting to see if I like it or not. But I'm going to try and be professional, go in with my reviewer hat on, and be like, look, judge it for what it is, not for sort of the voice actors. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see if their last movie was good, but or if they followed the trend of this film of like they went back to their roots with this one of telling a very heartfelt story. Is that something they're going to do with Spies and Skies? We will see. Anyway, before I wrap things up, before we come to sort of a nice end, I do want a bit of trivia. So the village where Nina and Ferdinand live is in Rodanda in the south of Spain. This village is known for having the oldest bull ring in the world, built in 1785. Ferdinand the Bull from 1938 was a Walt Disney Studios animated short, first shown in 1938. Calming goats are a real thing, but are usually for horses, not bulls. Anxious horses, particularly race horses, feel a calming and soothing presence from having goats in the barn or in the stable. See, I told you. I didn't just make it up just to sound sort of impressive. I told you. Calming goats are a thing. That's the reason why people have goat yoga, which is a weird thing. You can Google if you want, but it's strange. Goat is basically where people do yoga in a field with goats, and then as they do yoga, the goats come along and then they jump on their backs. And apparently, goats just have a very calming aura about them. I can't really say if they do or they don't because I've never been around a whole group of goats or been around one goat really. Probably have, but can't remember. But yeah, apparently calming goats are a thing, and I knew they was, and I'm glad that the trivia helped me out with that one. Walt Disney had previously produced a short film, blah blah blah. Trying to think what else. I'm trying to think some other ones. Oh, in the scene where Angus is attempting CPR on a bunny, he gets encouragement from Bones and responds, "I'm a bull, not a doctor," which again is sort of a nod to Star Trek. In the series in which Bones, the nickname for Captain Kirk uses for Dr. McCoy, often exclaims, "I'm a doctor, not a mechanic, a bricklayer, engineer, etc." Additionally, Angus is voiced by David Tennant, who played the Doctor in Doctor Who. Yeah, I found that bit rather funny because again, Bones isn't. I don't know Star Trek very well, but isn't Bones Scottish in the Star Trek show? Which is funny because you got David Tennant, who played the Doctor, who is the Doctor, plays the Doctor, but he's now playing a bull, who is also Scottish, and they do an homage to Star Trek. Like it's a very sort of in joke. But if you get all the different ins, you get the joke even more. And it was one of the moments that it made me smile. I loved it. Yeah, I just thought it was great. I really, really did. One thing I want to look at though with Ferdinand is I wanted to look at this. So at box office, it made $298 million. What else was also come out in 2011? So let's have a look at that. So what animated movies came out in 2017, not 2011? So what else came out this year? So we had obviously Ferdinand came out, Despicable Me 3, Smurfs: The Lost Village, Boss Baby, Captain Underpants, My Little Pony the movie, Coco, Cars 3. What else came out this year? Nut Job 2, which I actually kind of like Nut Job. I haven't seen the sequel, but the first one's kind of funny. What else came out? Happy Family, the Batman movie, the Emoji Movie. The less we talk about the Emoji Movie, the better, to be honest. Trying to think what else. Other ones that people might know. There was loads, actually. Jesus. Oh, you had the Beauty and the Beast live action one came out. Batman and Harley Quinn, which again you wouldn't have probably seen that unless you was a nerd. What else? yeah, that's about it, really. There are loads of others, like loads of other animated movies that kind of little unwell known one. Oh, the Lego Ninjago movie that came out. So again, it had a lot of competition against, and that's probably why. Because again, Despicable Me being Despicable Me, everybody loves that. They make $1 billion every time they make them. Boss Baby, again, it's new for, but it's DreamWorks. Everybody loves DreamWorks. Smurfs, again, I love the Smurfs. I do. I can't say I don't. I do quite like the Smurfs, and I remember watching The Lost Village and enjoying it. Um, yeah, and Cars 3, in my opinion, the best sequel to Cars. Really, it's Cars 1, then Cars 3. I don't really count Cars 2 as a sequel at all. Cars 3 is actually really, really good. And it's brilliant. It is. And maybe one day, if I ever get around to talking about Pixar films, I'd love to talk about Cars 3 because I love Cars 3. It's the perfect sequel and perfect end to the first Cars movie. Yeah, but again, I'm going off. But yeah, Coco, we love it here in this house. Coco do. Ooh, Coco Loco. We sing the songs all the time. Um, but yeah, the point I'm trying to make is the fact that it had a lot of competition against it. And I understand as to why it's a movie that's not remembered. And probably didn't do very well because again, there's so much going out at the time. But still, I wanted to sort of mention it. This came out in December as well. It came out on the 22nd of December, so it was around Christmas time. So it was like a Christmas sort of film. So if people weren't going to go watch this at Christmas, they probably weren't going to go see it. Because a lot of people, believe it or not, go to watch the movies on Christmas. I don't. I never have, but I have had friends that, like on Christmas Day, they would go out and watch a movie at the cinema and things like that. Some people do, some people don't. It got 70% on Rotten Tomatoes, so that's still pretty high. It was sort of verified fresh. So that should give you an idea. But yeah, I'm waffling now. I know I am, but the point I'm trying to make is that it's good. It's worth watching. You should give it a go. It's not going to blow your mind, but you will enjoy it because it is better than you expect it to be. So yeah, going for the story, going for the characters. John Cena does an incredible job because I knew he would do because it's John Cena. And yeah, absolutely brilliant overall. So that has been everything I have to say about Ferdinand. Hope you liked it. Hope you enjoyed it. I've been your host, Luke of the Jolly Bean. And yeah, one thing I want to mention, if you have any ideas of what you want me to look at in the future, either be animated movies or live action films, books, video games, anything like that, anything you want me to look at, please do let me know. Either on Twitter at howdybeans_pod. If you listen on YouTube, drop a comment down below. If you're on Spotify, you can actually write comments on Spotify now. So again, write what you feel and maybe give me an idea of a topic down there as well. And yeah, so thank you for listening. I'm going to go now and rest because I am shattered because it has been a busy day. But I hope you all liked it. I hope you all enjoyed it. And I'll catch you all in the next one. Bye-bye.